Welcome back, team, on the journey to transform culture. I'm Steve, and I'll be your guide. Well, team, let's talk about transformation. Not little t transformation or capital T transformation. Let's just talk about transformation. What is transformation? Typically, when we think of transformation, we think of something going from one thing to becoming another thing. Oftentimes in nature, the easiest example of this we think of is the caterpillar becoming the butterfly, right? The process of the caterpillar becoming the butterfly, it goes into the chrysalis or whatever, it creates it, but it doesn't go from one thing to another thing immediately. It breaks down from the thing that it was to becoming the thing that it's going to become. So a lot of times when people think, if you think about personal transformation, or if you think about organizational transformation, cultural transformation, any of these things, irrespective if it's an individual or if it's moving right on through to larger groups, is that it isn't just becoming a new thing. It isn't just adding more bricks to the bricks that are already there. That's growth, right? That's not transformation. If you were to alchemy, the idea of alchemy is that you're transforming lead into gold. I mean, obviously that's the lore, right? Transforming lead into gold, and what does that mean? It means that it becomes something else. It is no longer lead; it is now gold. It is no longer the caterpillar. It then breaks down, changes its composition, and then rebuilds to become the butterfly. So now that we've, kicked that pretty hard. So what does that mean for us as individuals? Well, it means that when if you're going through a personal transformation, see the pup behind me, sneaking around behind me, trying to sneak up on me. And when we go through personal transformation, is that how do we do that? How do we go from who we are now to transforming into who we want to become? If you're going through a career change, if you're going through a lot of these different things, it's a matter of shifting, right? That is a shift. This is really the definition of a shift is transformation. You're shifting from that one thing to the other. And then when you do that shift, it is putting aside those things that once were to make room for and to allow the becoming of something else. So if you're changing careers, it might be, well, I've got to set aside. A good example would be if you're going from somebody who's part of the workforce and you work in a factory, or you work somewhere where you're more of the artisan, or you're more of the creator, you're more of the producer, you're more of the technician, to then becoming a leader. Well, now you're going from, using 10 or 15% of leadership skills and communication and all of that to flipping the script to where you're going a lot harder into becoming more of a communicator, more of a leader, being able to mentor people, being able to understand people, being able to explain things, being able to lead, to guide, all these things, which is completely different than what you were if you were a welder, right? If you were a welder for most of your career, and then over the course of years, you took on a little bit of, you became a trainer, you trained some other folks and did some other things. Great. Maybe you got into safety or something like that, where you did communicate on occasion, here and there. But by and large, you didn't. But then making that transition to become a leader now, or maybe you branched off to start your own company or your own organization. Well, now you've, you've dove right into the deep end of the pool. And because you're dealing with external customers, you're dealing with internal and external stakeholders, you're dealing with all kinds of things that you've never really had to deal with on a regular basis before. A whole new world, literally. So So that's an example of a transformation too, because you're having to set aside the skills of the past. It doesn't mean that I mean, some things do require us to remain fresh in those skills. You do have to go back and revisit those and kind of brush up or to keep, if there's something that you enjoyed doing still. But by and large, you're setting those things to the side. Those things that maybe once mattered that no longer now matter, no longer are going to provide your life value. And you're moving on, right? Now this might seem obvious as I'm going through it, but now let's take that into the personal arena. There are people out there with a lot of codependencies. There may be somebody who was a housewife, for example, who maybe went years or decades raising kids and taking care of the family, that now is, maybe the kids are grown, now is going full force into the workforce. That is a significant transformation, effort to transform, because now it's about the same thing as the welder went through. Hey, I'm taking on these new skills, these new abilities, and I'm setting aside, the taking care of those children. And although those are going from a positive to another positive, there's also the transformation of people going from arenas in life where where codependencies now were emotional codependencies, where or it could be drug or addictive things, those kind of codependencies where people have gone from relying on something that made them feel safe to going into areas where they may not feel safe, right? They relied on these substances or these different things. Food is another example. Anything to obsess, right? To excess can become a codependence in your life. And so, or you can become codependent on. So negating that means setting that aside. Well, obviously that's going to require a lot of hard work and effort. And it's going to, it could be quite directly painful for people to give up their addictions and their obsessions and so forth, so that they can go from the thing that they once were, the thing that kind of controlled their world, not unlike professions, right? Not unlike, hobbies and interests. Those you can transform, and some people might go from another good thing to a good thing. Hey, I didn't do these activities, but all of a sudden I'm going to become a runner now, and they didn't run their whole life, and but their knees are great, so so that's a good to a good, but also a difference, right? So, but from the negative to the good, that is probably the larger challenge. Transformation from going from a career to a career, from a skill to a skill, or from an arena to an arena, although can be scary, can be daunting, can be nerve-wracking, can give you a little bit of anxiety because you're going into a whole new world where you're not sure what's going to happen and that sort of thing. The certainty isn't necessarily there. It can also be exciting at the same time. Those are more palatable as we grow, when we develop. Those can be things that we experience because we know we went through school, we know we went through this training, I went on this trip, I did this, I did that, and it all worked out, right? But people are going from codependencies now, even emotional codependencies. There can be people who are addicted to being treated poorly in organizations or by other people, sadly. And going from that kind of control that felt safe in the moment, felt comfortable in the moment, felt like it was, well, I fit in there, this must be where I need to be, may not have been that healthy for them, right? And so transformation for them means setting that aside. But with some of that transformation also means that you're setting aside potentially friends or family or others that were also in those codependent behaviors, and setting those to the side is adding to it. Not only were you going through a physical transformation because you're changing what your body's used to, and your mind, if it's emotional, and your heart and that sort of thing, and your emotions, but also now you're dealing with a transformation because there are different people in your life. There's people that won't want to hang out with you if you're another good example is somebody who goes from being a person of faith to a person who no longer has faith, or vice versa. Somebody who's has no faith to becoming a person of faith, or a person who's went from a faith to a different faith, right? Could be your family could disown you, your friends could disown you, you could go through all kinds of transformation in that regard, because now that can feel like, it can almost feel like emotional blackmail, right? Because it feels like something is being done, but really what it is you're just no longer aligning with what drives them, what their purpose. Their purpose may have just been to sit on the beach and get drunk and do all these things, but now you want to go out and you want to help the homeless, and you want to build, you want to do charitable work, or you want to, you've found a purpose for your life. And so even without judgment, to walk into a new frame of world for you and to transform yourself out of an understanding of what your purpose is, must also come the understanding that there are going to be people who are not going to understand your transformation. They are not going to get it, right? Um, there are some people, more than that, maybe don't want it because maybe they feel like they would look bad or these sort of things. They may feel like maybe that you're judging them by just the act of growing your own life, which isn't, there's no truth to these things. These are projections. But that can be how that is received. It can be received as if, right? An example would be somebody going from not having a faith in their life to having faith. A judgment can be upon the person that, oh, well, you must think you're better than we are, or I am, or they are, or blah blah blah. And do you see how that goes? And now perpetuate that. You see how quickly those dominoes start to fly over, because it doesn't have to be true for somebody to say it or somebody to repeat it. Not only are you dealing with transformation, now you have to deal with the communication that surrounds the transformation. Sometimes what can be offered in the igniting of your own personal transformation is to explain, hey, this is what my purpose is. And even though you may explain it, there are still going to be people who don't get it. They can't, and they're not supposed to, because it's your vision, for your life. It's your vision for your company. It's your vision for your professional development. It's your vision. And you are allowed to have that. You are allowed to have the sovereignty, as any country does, to decide your own path in life. Do not let your own path in life be dictated or have people hold you in contempt of some kind of falling short of their expectation, because you are living your path and your journey, because that's unhealthy. That, if anything, what it proves out is that they were relying on you as a codependence, and you may have been relying on them as well, and it may have been, a team effort, depending on how big your group is. So, transformation. What does it take? Well, it takes courage, because not only does it take the courage to understand what you want for your own life and to understand where you want that to go, but it takes courage to go, you know what? There may be people who don't get my journey and my path and my, where I want to go and the journey of my transformation, but also the destination I hope to get to or approach, the vision of my life. Understand that you're going to lose folks. You're going to lose people. And even if you don't physically lose them in your life, they may mentally kind of check out. Emotionally, they may not get it. From a soulful perspective, they may not, maybe, they don't go that deep. And that's okay. Some people aren't as deep as some other people. Some other people like to extract the marrow right out of life. That's me. I'll go to 20,000 leagues under the sea. Let's talk about it. Let's pick it apart. Let's take that clock apart and figure out what makes it tick, and then put it back together again. And, because it's the journey of discovery, right? It's an adventure. Not only is it to transform yourself, but it's also really an adventure to see and to encourage others to transform. And I encourage you to transform, but you first have to find a vision that aligns with who you are and where you want to go. Nobody can tell you what the vision for your life should be. And that's another way that you know that you're not living your own vision and your own purpose, is if somebody has pretty much put you in a box and said that's who you are your entire life, and you've had to live up to that or down to that, depending on the situation, your entire life. That's how you know you are not living your purpose. You are not following the vision for your own life. And that's how you know that you need to maybe do a self-assessment and go, hey, am I really living what is fulfilling for me? And then from that point, go forward and figure out what that is. And that itself is an adventure to figure out what drives you, what makes you tick, what really, and that can also be pretty fun. It can also be a little scary, but you know what? There are so many people out there who have gone through transformations. We've all, well, I won't say we've all, a lot of us have gone through transformation. And I can usually figure out if somebody's gone through a transformation with a couple attitude checks. Does a person have a real negative attitude? Are they really pessimistic? Or, there's one thing to be critical, have a critical eye in being productive and being constructive criticism. That's the word. That's the phrase I'm looking for. Are they a constructive critic, or are they a critic, or are they so negative and so critical that it is so far from optimism or hopeful or anything like that it kind of kills the energy in the room? That's how you know somebody. And the other part too is drama and toxicity. If drama and toxicity, and a kind of a faux happiness seems to follow in their wake, that's another thing. You start to see some of these little things that you can kind of look around, and generally people who are not, okay with their path in life currently, or their circumstance, or the potential for their circumstance, generally are not in alignment with probably who they want to ultimately become, or the vision that they really have for their life. Either they haven't figured it out, or they're not on that path. And so it's really good to have some empathy toward folks who are going through that, or who are yet to go through that, because it is a struggle at times to go through these things, these transformations. We can talk all day about the caterpillar and the butterfly, but it's painful for that caterpillar to become that butterfly in the end. It isn't a painless process to deconstruct and reconstruct, to build oneself. It's essentially taking a race car and making something that's a race car that is built for a flat track. It might be able to go fast, that looks cool, and then transform that into an off-road machine that can go over any terrain and do anything. In normal circumstance, these two things cannot coexist in the same space. There has to be a transformation, which means you have to deconstruct this vehicle to then reconstruct into this one. And similarly, that's what a transformation is. It is a deconstruction and a reconstruction. And when you follow that path and that journey, when you get in line with, the hope for your vision of your life, and you start to walk that path, you are protecting love in yourself. And by doing that, believe it or not, you are protecting love in those other people. Even if you lose some folks along the journey, why is that? They are going to see you on your journey and reflect upon their own, and then eventually figure out and find and start on their own journey of transformation. And that's a good thing. That is protecting love. And that's why when you transform, others transform. Remember, hit that good domino 3 to 5 times a day, uplifting and inspiring folks, helping them out, giving them encouragement, like these puppies. Tell them how great they are, how wonderful they are, and encourage them. And when you do that, you're transforming others, but you're also helping to transform yourself. And when you do that, all of culture changes. And that's a good thing. And that should be something that's appreciated. Hit like, share, and subscribe. Hope to see you again next time. Take care. Have a wonderful day. Are you having a good day? Are you having a good day?